Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Late Show. This is your host, Young Brando, live from Los Angeles. We are ready to talk horology after dark, and I have some interesting pieces for you today. But most importantly, we're going to take a look at the Ineichen Zürich auction that is coming up at the end of the month in about 10 days now. It is a live event, unlike a lot of the other auctions they curate. It's going to take place on August 29th, and it is an auction that is dedicated to the work of the Russian watchmaker Konstantin Chaykin. There are many interesting iterations of um, his wristmon style watches, the Joker watch, the Minion watch, and some other pieces. Some sketches that were drawn by his hand. Apparently, a new release that would be unveiled on August 29th. And finally, um, a few more interesting watches and clocks. So let's get right into it. But I will start with some further new releases and interesting watches. And the two watches also from the personal collection of Sir Roger Moore that is going to be auctioned off on October 4th by Bonhams London on New Bond Street. So let's get to it. I do apologize about the shades. Um, Hi, Robert. I do apologize about the shades. Um, it's a gimmick, but it's also a necessary one. One of my eyes is actually kind of messed up, and I do not want to scare you off, but maybe for a very generous super chat, I might take my glasses off and say something like, I'm a Terminator. So let's look forward to that as well. But I will start with a watch that has an otherworldly provenance. The Fortis Stratoliner S41 White Dust Supernova. Um, I'm sure many of you know that Fortis has, speaking of gimmicks, their gimmick is to create pieces that are up to the specifications of space travel. But in this particular case, building on a project they started a few years ago, they have actually flown uh, 13 encased pieces, not only movements, into space. And now apparently they're giving their collectors, they're giving watch enthusiasts to own one of these special edition Stratoliners, one of only 13 pieces. The watch has a few interesting aesthetic flourishes that distinguish it from a standard Stratoliner, and a very intriguing application process through which these 13 pieces are going to be allocated. So as you can see, the look is a little more luxurious. There is an 18 karat gold inlay on the bezel, an 18 karat gold inlay on the case back too, apparently. Let's see that as well, if we have a picture of it. This is, by the way, an article that was published on the Monochrome Watches magazine, penned by one Bryce Goulart. Those gold accents are continued both with this gilt track from 12 to 6, as well as the PVD coated gold hands for hour, minutes, and centrally deployed chronograph seconds. The piece is powered by Fortis's own Werk 17, which is something they built from scratch and have designed as an integrated column wheel chronograph movement. I guess you won't be fooled by that narrative too much, because even the layout of the dial with the day dates at 3 o'clock, the 12-hour counter at 6, 30-minute totalizer at 12, and the continuous running seconds at 9, you can already tell that Werk 17 is built on the base of Valjoux 7750. I'm kind of intrigued more by the number 13, honestly. As you know, that's not a very lucky number, and it's also particularly unlucky when it relates to space flight and space-related missions. So why they chose the number 13 and why they insisted on it in this particular way is a mystery to me, but they must have a very compelling reason of their own. Again, this is speaking of the caliber Werk 17. Of course, this is a self-winding caliber, right? Unlike the movement for the Moonwatch, which of course is hand wound, based on Lemania CH27, revised as Omega 321. 41 millimeter stainless steel case made up of recycled material with the white dust dial. A very utilitarian design, harkening back to the tool watches of yesteryear. The white dust supernova is a little different, apparently, than the classic white dust style they have, with a silvery color, a grained texture, as you can probably see from this visual. Very attractive looking watch. And the fact that it was actually flown to space makes it all the more interesting. There is actually a YouTube video / documentary on this, which I'm gonna link in the chat. So if you need a little more hype about the 13 Fortis Stratoliners that were flown into space, feel free to check out that documentary that I just linked. And the watch that you're seeing again, here is one of those 13 unique examples. Which are going to be available only by application. And for 8,450 euro, which is about 3,000 euro premium over their standard chronograph. So not that crazy, not that impossible. Apparently, you are invited to submit an application by sending an email at rocket@fortis-swiss.com. And the submissions are going to be open until September 4th, which is a Monday. So feel free to make your case. Feel free to try your luck. I think it's a very interesting piece. Speaking of all the mythology we have about tool watches more broadly, and especially watches that are connected to space exploration, this could be a very interesting chance to own a piece that has actually been flown into space. Again, this is the Fortis Stratoliner S41 White Dust Supernova with the exclusive gold details and a special dial, actually flown into space. And those 13 units are only going to be available by application. And you're invited by the brand to make your case by sending an email to rocket@fortis-swiss.com. So feel free to try your chance. And if you want to actually learn more about the project and learn more about these very special 13 pieces, feel free to check out the documentary. I posted the link in the chat already. So next up, I want to talk about the independent British watchmaker Garrick, which just released a moon phase piece. Garrick makes beautiful handmade watches from the UK. And this particular piece happens to be the first model they have made that has a so-called astronomical complication, which in this case is a moon phase indicator that is displayed through an aperture at 6 o'clock. The piece is offered in two dial variations, both beautifully engine turned. One is a kind of salmon or soft copper tone, and the other this blue that you're seeing here. The center of the dial and the perimeter of the dial have two distinct guilloche patterns. These are going to be made in a series of 10 for 2024 and 10 for the next year, apparently. Made in stainless steel, 39 millimeters in diameter and 8 millimeters in thickness, with a beautiful mirror polished finish. Here's the visual for the salmon colored dial. As you see, blue and salmon are de rigueur. They're a must. You know, every brand has to have a blue dial and a salmon dial watch, if not also a green one. Thank you, MCM. Yeah, let's treat it as a gimmick, even though my eye is messed up and I don't want to scare you guys. World domination. I don't know. The world is not enough, as they say. But it is a good place to start. It is a good place to start. Here's a look at the movements. This, by the way, is, of course, a very traditionally designed, conservatively proportioned dress watch. I was just saying its stainless steel case is mirror polished, 39 millimeters in diameter and 8 millimeters in thickness. But the piece actually has 100 meters of water resistance, 10 atmos of a depth rating, which is quite respectable. I don't know if you would want to do that, but you can even take it on a swim, which is quite interesting for this particular style of the watch. The dial is where most, of course, most of the interesting handwork is done, with a fantastic blue disc decorated with moon and the stars that peek through that aperture we were talking about at 6 o'clock. This is the blue dial version again. The movement is hand wound and called UTG05. With a unique 3-point finish, with a unique 3-point bridge that's has here a silver frosted finish. Even though the watch is made in England, and again, we have specified that the hand decorated dial is the central focus of the watch. The caliber was designed by Andreas Strehler and his company Urteil AG, with the parts made both in Switzerland and UK. Beating at 3.5 hertz, 21,008, sorry, 21,000, I'm sorry, beating at 3 hertz, meaning 21,600 semi-oscillations per hour with 20 joules. The caliber has a 60-hour power reserve once it's fully wound by hand. The price is set at 20,000 British pounds, 24,000 including VAT for the UK. Again, 10 slots for next year and 10 slots for 2024, 10 for 2025. Garrick overall makes about 70 units, 70 handmade watches per year. So this is, at any rate, a very rare piece. I think you can choose and customize the plating of the movement as well, whether the silver color, the rhodium plating, or the gold plating for a gilt color. And I believe you have to, here's a look at the brand's own page. You have to pay 65% as a deposit to hold your place in line. I guess you can always choose to pay in full. I really like the dial, honestly, with a wave motif at the center and a fish scale at the periphery of the dial. Classic Roman numerals, sweep center seconds, which are combined with alpha hands, multifaceted and nicely finished alpha hands for hour and minutes. The signature of the brand on a separate plaque at 12 o'clock. And of course, the moon phase indicator at 6 in this recessed subdial. I think both dial colors look quite exquisite, with the salmon, unsurprisingly, my choice. Again, the pricing is £20,000. before the VAT, which adds up to 24,000 for the UK, including VAT. Yeah, me too. I like the salmon better too. There are a few reasons, Robert. Usually it looks a little more, I don't know, let's say romantic. Let's see if they have a picture of the movement here. I guess we will have to go back to monochrome for that. Especially with a larger balance wheel. This is not necessarily a large balance wheel. I always think with an exhibition case back where you are framing the balance in this way, it's just aesthetically more pleasing to look at a movement that beats with a lower frequency. Just the way the hairspring expands and contracts is much more pleasant to observe as opposed to a high frequency movement. Now, like you said, if you have all things being equal, if you have the same movement, architecture, and technology, the same gear train, a higher frequency would deplete your power reserve faster. It will, of course, also introduce more wear and tear into the process, which means that the service intervals shrink as well. So again, a higher beat movement might be easier to regulate to a chronometric standard, which is why 4 hertz or higher is preferred a lot of times with high production watches from bigger brands. Whereas it, including being somewhat of a shortcut to a higher power reserve, low beat movement allows you to, one, increase service intervals, which is great when you get a watch from an indie that you can't easily trust to an average watchmaker. Two, it is really more pleasant to observe, and trust me, I mean, this particular movement architecture is all about drawing your attention, drawing your eye into the balance wheel. So I'm sure that played a part in that. After all, it is the almighty Andreas Strehler who designed the movement. I'm sure he had that in mind. Yep, MCM thinks exactly like me. Slow beat is my preference. It's like slower breathing. And Robert says, I can see that argument. And all 29, if the Longines Spirits had those stars, I would be down with it. Yeah, Longines offers a lot of value at the price point. Let's take a look at those, because not all of us, including me, have 20,000 pounds to spare for just about this is the flagship Heritage that Longines, I think, just introduced the blue dial version. Essentially, you're getting a similar package in terms of functions, of course. In addition to that, also a pound sorry about that, a pointer date that surrounds the moon phase indicator at 6 o'clock. Again, in a very classically shaped and proportioned case, 38.5 millimeters in diameter. Of course, this is not a high horological watch. It doesn't really have bespoke movements. So it has a closed case back, which has the special medallion for Longines for their flagship collection, 3 bars, which is to say 30 meters of water resistance, 12.40, so 12.4 millimeters thick, which is significantly more than the Garrick S5 moon phase that we were looking at. So much less refined, a little more bulky, with a self-winding movement, which has a silicon balance spring and 72 hours of power reserve, with the movement beating at 25,200 semi-oscillations or vibrations per hour. And the flagship Heritage would set you back right around 3,000 US dollars. That's $3,050 in USD. You also have a silver dial and a kind of bone or off-white colored dial with gilt fixtures, gilt dial furniture. An interesting option, not as elaborate, not as refined, not nearly as much of handwork, of course. Not necessarily an interesting movement that you can observe through an exhibition caseback, but nevertheless something that is oriented towards everyday performance with a 72-hour power reserve, self-winding with silicon balance spring. Only in a boxing ring, MCM. That's when I go after ribs. Only as a form of sanctioned violence. So that was Garrick, which was our second watch of the day, Garrick S5 with the beautiful moon phase. I showed this Longines flagship Heritage as a budget alternative to it. I think Longines delivers great quality at right around that price range, $3K at retail. You can, and it's exactly the kind of brand that you should ask a discount for when you are making that purchase. This is what we were looking for. We also looked earlier, if you want to rewind the tape a little bit, to Fortis, namely the 13 pieces of the Stratoliner that were flown into space and are now available by application at a slight premium, or rather, at the decent premium, but still a reasonable price compared to their regular production model. And you have to apply by submitting your reasoning. This is the price point, and this is the email address for submissions, which are open until Monday, the September 4th. So let's quickly transition to our auction of the day, which is the Ineichen Zürich that is coming up on August 29. This is actually going to be a live auction in Geneva. And it's going to start at 1 p.m. Central European Time. Here's a general look at the lots. I think 15, and we'll go through each and every one of them one by one. But if you like, you can most certainly direct my attention to any one of the pieces by sending in the lot number with a super chat. But let's start with lot number 1, which apparently is the first ever Joker watch to be produced by Chaykin. Joker was, of course, the first in what became later the Wristmonts series of watches, which have their unique way of displaying time in the form of these goggly eyes. The one on the left of us, right around traditional 10 o'clock, is for the hours, and the one on the right Sorry, guys, I had a problem with my mic again. I need a new cable for this nonsense. Hope you can hear me. We were talking about lot 1 in the Chaykin Ineichen Zürich auction. This is a first series Joker watch, which of course began the Rismon's style watches. There's a Minion watch, as you know. Now there are variations modeled after extinct and mythological animals and other cartoon characters, but this is the original with the distinct 2 ears crowns. As you guys know, this particular concept has a unique way of displaying time with the 2 goggly eyes, with the one on the left at the traditional 10 o'clock showing the hour, the one on the right at the traditional 2 o'clock showing the minutes, and actually the mouth, what looks like the tongue, is the unique way of this watch to display, to indicate the moon phase. Some funky patterns on the dial, both for the face and also kind of the brow. The bezel is decorated by symbols that relate to the deck of cards, with J for Joker taking center stage at 12 o'clock, and the green flange of that surrounds the dial invokes the green hair of everyone's favorite villain, presented here on a black alligator strap with medium scales and green contrast stitching that picks up that color of the Joker theme. Stainless steel matched with a stainless steel tang buckle. Rhodium plated movements that beats under the case back. One of the first series of 99 pieces, number 54 to be specific. .42 millimeters in diameter. The movement is a self-winding caliber, K07-0 by the manufacturer itself. 38 hours of power reserve when it's fully wound. Again, 42 millimeters in diameter and with a thickness of 13.7 millimeters. This is lot 1, a first series Joker watch with an estimated value of 34,100 to 51,150 in US dollars. There is a fixed price of 51,150, The bidding will start at 28,400 US dollars. And there is already a bid. And in an interesting fashion, which seems a little detrimental to a live event that is coming up, but there is a buy it now option at that fixed price point, so things can end before they begin in Geneva at the end of the month if someone is willing to pull the trigger at 51,150. Hey, David. They're Oliver Peoples, Cary Grant model. Again, I'm just hiding my bloodshot eye behind it, so nothing to get too excited about. It is a gimmick, but it's a well-placed one. Lot number 2 is actually a hand-drawn sketch of the Joker dial design on a watercolor paper, and it is by Chaykin's own hand. Of course, the Joker is the first model in the Wrist Monsters or Wrist Mons collection. This is drawn with a graphite pencil and nothing else. And using the different shading techniques, he really manages to mimic the unique finishing details of his own design. Very cool piece, very cool detail, signed and dated by Chaykin himself. This is lot 2, which is a hand-sketched Joker dial by the hand of Chaykin himself with a graphite pencil. The estimate is $3,450 to $5,700. The starting bid was $1,750. There are already 2 bids placed on the piece with the fixed price $5,700 US dollars. Once again, there's no buyer's premium. And if someone pulls the trigger at that fixed price, at that fixed buy it now price of 5,700, the piece may end up being sold before the auction begins on August 29th in the afternoon. This is a very interesting event. I believe it's the first auction to be dedicated to Chaykin's work, so very exciting. And I'm actually very surprised, and I have to say positively surprised, that Ineichen Zürich chose this particular moment in time to honor who remains in today's market, at least, the preeminent Russian watchmaker. You're looking at lot number 3, which is an example of Joker 5, released in 2022 in 38 examples. With a partially skeletonized dial that shows you the hours and minutes, of course, with the goggly eyes, but also through Joker's lips. There's a sector for the day of the week, which is retrograde, meaning that it jumps back to the beginning on midnight that ends Saturday and begins the Sunday. I think this is one of the most exciting and intriguing examples of the Joker series. Certainly my personal favorite. If it were a traditional moon phase indicator, I may have been, more enticed by the original series, but things being what they are, I'm more intrigued here by the partially skeletonized dial and the retrograde day indicator that is expressed through the opening of Joker's mouth. Additionally, you also happen to have, as you have seen, an exhibition caseback, which gives you a glimpse of that self-winding movement and appreciate some of the finishing techniques. 40 millimeters in diameter, again with a stainless steel case. You can appreciate aspects of the movement's finishing and mechanism from both the dial side and through the exhibition caseback. And if you pay close attention, let me see if we can actually see it or glimpse through it here. It's a little difficult. Okay, we will focus on that detail some other time, perhaps. This piece was released again in a limited series of 38 pieces last year. Everything already sold in advance, I guess. So far, the only serially produced wristmon with that retrograde day of the week indicator. So it holds that unique position within the Wrist Monsters series as well. I like the industrial vibe of this watch, which certainly fits with the ethos of Gotham City. So here is lot number 3 from the Konstantin Chaykin Joker 5 series, celebrating the 5th anniversary of the Wrist Monsters collection, with a pre-auction estimate of 51,150 to 73,850 in US dollars. The starting bid was 45,450. There are already 2 bids lodged in, and the buy it now price is fixed at 73,850. There is no buyer's premium for this auction. I do want to highlight that. This was lot 3. Hi, Artie. Nothing from my perspective. Absolutely nothing. Just a minor disagreement. I'm sure, I'm sure we can talk about it or not. It doesn't phase me either way. Um, you guys know me, or if you know me, you know that I value my independence, um, having my own platform into which, in principle, everyone is welcome, except when it comes to professionals. Um, that I regulate very precisely according to my own criteria and principles, and that will never change. Even though I always remain open to collaboration with other watch-related horological social media platforms. Now we are looking at lot number 4, which is pièce unique. It is a one-of-a-kind Joker watch that is called Triple X. It has a few unique aspects to it. One of which that jumps out right away is, of course, the PVD coated black case with a purple leather strap, a little funkier, or perhaps more fitting to a campier version of the Joker. I believe it's an ostrich skin strap. The dial design and the telling of time is a little different, with a more precision-oriented look, with red arrows and details for both the subdials for the hour and the minutes. And of course, there's the unique moon phase indicator through the opening of Joker's mouth at the traditional 6 o'clock, as always. Very stunning and interesting case for this one-of-a-kind version of the Joker piece. And apparently it has a unique NFT of Gotham City on the case back as well. As you guys know, the movement that has a special patent for the Joker watch and for wrist monsters in general is again called K07-0. It is built on the base of ETA 2824-2, but as you can see, heavily modified by Chaykin for this rather complicated and unique indication of hour, minutes, and the moon phase. As I mentioned, this particular piece, which is one of a kind, has a kind of sportier look more precision oriented as well, where you have the dashboard design for both the subdial for the hours and the subdial for the minutes, which are the two eyes of the Joker. Very unique piece indeed. No pun intended whatsoever. That would have been too cheap. For lot 4, the pre-auction estimate for this Joker Triple X pièce unique is 34,100 to 68,200. The ceiling of that estimate is also a fixed price as a buy it now option. The starting bid was 28,400. There are already 2 bids lodged in advance of the live event, which is going to take place in Geneva on August 29th. Once again, there's no buyer's premium at this auction. So whether it's the hammer price or the buy it now price, what you see is what you get, what you see is what you pay. This was lot 4 for one-of-a-kind iteration of the Joker. Lot 5 is Harlequin. Let's take a look at that. I do want to see what RT said. He says, your content is always good, but the other day with... No, I don't think... Look, RT, I mean, there are going to be conversations like that. Sometimes it's going to be uncomfortable and difficult conversations. Sometimes there's going to be disagreements. I don't think anyone came into the channel that night with an agenda. I don't think so. I don't want to believe that. Am I a fan of any modern Panerais? Not really. I do love the case design. Every time I see one of their platinum limited editions with that famous sage green dial, I get enticed a certain way. I think that design, even though it is in a way the ultimate tool watch, lends itself so beautifully to something elegant and dressy. I guess that's why I really love the Laurent Ferrier square pieces, for example, which have that aesthetic of the classic waterproof oyster case that was supplied to Officine Panerai by Rolex, of course, but in a way that's a little more smoothed out, with lugs that are downturned in this elegant way and polished to this beautiful mirror-like finish. The dial itself always being also a delight, and of course with the micro rotor caliber with that snailed finish. And of course, what I what I like is also the natural escapements, also that these micro rotor movements have for Laurent Ferrier. So, yeah. So I think, my perverse expectation from Panerai is mostly fulfilled by this Gallet square micro rotor series by Laurent Ferrier, and I would really love to have one either with the autumn dial or the ice blue dial. I think Marco Ferrante has one with the ice blue dial. I think these are stunning watches and a great combination of aesthetics and horology. Speaking of which, we're looking at lot 5 of the special Konstantin Chaykin Ineichen auction that's coming up on August 29th. It's going to start at 1 p.m. in Zürich. This is lot 5, Harlequin 21. As always, part of a limited series released in 2021, which is 21 in Italian, a number closely associated with gambling, as it happens. And not to be confused with the Joker of the DC Comics universe of Gotham City, so to speak, even though there's, of course, a connection. This piece is inspired by the Italian theatrical performances that are grouped under Commedia dell'arte, which have the characters Pantalone, Brighella, Pulcinella, Colombina, and among many others, of course, the Harlequin as well, one of the most popular masks of the Venetian comedy theater. Kind of a trickster figure. This particular edition of the Rismonds is served up in the classic stainless steel case. In 42 millimeters, thickness 13.7 millimeters. A unique dial design, as you can see, with a bridge that connects the subdials for the hours and the minutes in the form of a mask. And the representation of the Harlequin mask on the solid case back as well. One of 18 pieces. Thank you, Steve B. Thank you. I appreciate you. 199. I really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much. again, as with most other examples of the series, this is powered by the K07-O self-winding caliber, which is built on the base of the ETA 2824-2 by Chaykin to accommodate the complicated display of hours, minutes, and the moon phase indicator. 38 hours of power reserve at full charge. This is the Harlequin 21, both a tribute to the Venetian comedic theater, Commedia dell'arte, and the Harlequin character or mask from that performance art, and also with an allusion to gambling through the number 21, as the piece is called Harlequin 21, which is 21 in Italian. Lot 5, estimated value 28,400 to 45,450 in US dollars. The high number being also an option to buy the watch now. Already 2 bids lodged in. The starting bid was, however, 22,750. There's no buyer's premium for this piece. So whether we're talking about the fixed price right now or what will end up being the hammer price on August 29th in Geneva, there's not going to be a buyer's premium. Once again, just to put it out there, I'm not supported by any of these auction houses that I cover. I also don't fully endorse them. I always suggest going into the previews and taking a look at watches yourself, or at least having someone inspect these watches in person for you. The pictures and the lot essays always leave something to be desired. For this particular auction, I do have to say that it's a very special event. I don't think I have seen any particular auction dedicated to Konstantin Chaykin as a watchmaker, even though his unique positioning in the market has been widely recognized. It's only 15 lots, nothing too unusual. So I guess you can bid with relative sense of security and trust. But as always, if you can actually go to Geneva in the run-up to the auction, or end up in Zurich before the end of the month, it never hurts to try to see some of these watches, especially the couple of pieces that you would be interested in person. Lot 6 was one of the most recent releases of Konstantin Chaykin. This is a collaboration with Louis Erard, which is a brand that has made a lot from a regulator dial design. And here, the Time Eater has a unique dial layout, as you can see, that differs from the rest of the Wrist Monster series, where you have the hours at 12 o'clock with the minute hand centrally deployed to give it the center of attention. It is the focal point of the watch. Regulator dials harken back to earlier times in horology, where the minute by minute precision was really important and was kind of enforced by these regulator clocks that were the centerpieces of watchmaking and repair workshops worldwide. Such regulator clocks were also important for railroad technology, for example, in the US, where, of course, the synchronization of pocket watches for the conductors was a life and death matter. Check out my very early video of regulator dials, on regulator dials in modern watches and their inspiration. I'm going to post the link in the chat. By the way, please hit the like button. As you can see, this is a very small, very niche channel that requires a lot of hard work, effort, and persistence, and lots of stamina on my part. So any kind of support you can give, even if it is just the click of a button, makes a whole world of difference for me. It really, really does matter. Again, you're looking at lot number 7, which is the Time Eater set, a recent collaboration between Konstantin Chaykin and Louis Erard. These are actually 2 watches, one in 39 millimeters, one in 42. You can kind of distinguish them in the pictures. You know, one has that double end stitching in green, and the other has it in purple. Purple accent, green accent for the minute ring. The movement is built on a Celita SW 266-1, which is a self-winding movement. And specific to regulator dial watches, even though it is built on the base of the classic ETA 2824-2, very similar to other pieces in the Wristmonts series. This particular lot, in addition to the 2 watches, includes a sketch by Konstantin Chaykin's hand. Just a word on Konstantin Chaykin again. He is, of course, the preeminent Russian watchmaker in today's horological markets, but he's also a member of the AHCI, Académie Horlogère des Créateurs Indépendants, basically the Academy of Independent Watchmakers. He has 94 patents to his name, a genuine horological innovator. He caught his break in 2017 with this Joker watch that he made, which was supposed to be something fun, something interesting, something more accessible than his more otherworldly horological creations. But it was so popular that it sold out at Basel World, all 99 pieces, almost instantly. And the whole venture became a good way for Chaykin to both establish some hype, some word of the mouth on the street, but also a good platform to expand in models that are more accessible and relatable, perhaps, than the more complicated pieces, wrist mons, faces of monsters that to be worn on the wrist that indicate the hour and the minute with the goggly eyes, and a unique way of indicating the moon phase through the mouth of the character. The Time Eater has a Cyclops design with a single eye. And as I mentioned, relies on the regulator dials that have always held a pride of place in Louis Erard's catalog. That gear-like subdial at 6 o'clock is actually 4 seconds. Like pointed teeth, like the devouring mouth of the Cyclops, that is the wrist monster, which gives inspiration to this watch. Which apparently takes its name from Stephen King's short story, The Langoliers, Time Eaters. 42 millimeters for the green one, 39 millimeters for the purple, both in stainless steel. Both pieces are included in the slot, along with a sketch drawn by Chaykin's own hand. The pieces were sold at 4,000 Swiss francs each when they came out earlier this year. This two-piece set was a limited edition, a limited run of 28 pieces. And both of the pieces were made in a total run of 178. So 178 pieces of the green, which is the 42 millimeter, 178 pieces of the purple, which is the 39 millimeter. And this particular box set is one of 28, which includes both. And this particular lot is actually enriched by a sketch drawn by the hand of Konstantin Chaykin himself. Lot number 6, Louis Erard, Konstantin Chaykin, Time Eater set, which includes both the 39 millimeter version in purple and the 42 in with the green accents, and a hand-drawn sketch of the design. The fixed price is set at $26,150 in US dollars. No buyer's premium involved if you choose to exercise that option. The hammer price is subject to the same rule, no buyer's premium. The starting bid was $9,100, and the estimate is $17,050 to $28,400 in US dollars. We're looking at the Minions watch next. This is lot 7, depicting one of those adorable or extremely irritating characters from the famous movie, I think by now a franchise, really. They have made a few different movies already, or a couple at least. This particular watch was first presented at the Dubai Watch Week in 2021. And as always, this is a licensed product by the Universal City Studios, apparently one of 38 pieces, 40 millimeters in a stainless steel case, and presented on a special denim styled blue textile strap with calf leather lining inside and contrasting yellow copper finishing and detailing. The bezel spells out the name of the watch, Minions. And again, the two goggly eyes indicates hour and minutes, with the mouth indicating through its opening a unique moon phase, matching stainless steel pin buckle, of course. An exhibition case back with a custom Minions rotor. This piece actually happens to be number 1 in the 38-piece series, so might be an interesting proposition for the Chaykin collector or for a fan of Minions watches. Here's a picture of the presentation box and the original product literature. Again, 40 millimeters in stainless steel, 13.7 millimeters in thickness. The pre-auction estimates for lot 7, the Konstantin Chaykin Minions watch, is 34,100 to 51,150. That ceiling is also the fixed price for the buy it now option. There are already 2 bids lodged in advance of the auction on August 29th, which is going to be a live event in Geneva. There's no buyer's premium, again, whether we are talking about the hammer price or the buy it now option. This is the case, which gives an edge to Ineichen Zürich in today's auction circuit. They're aiming to be a disruptor in the industry, and they have been doing quite decently, especially last year was a good year for them. Remains to be seen how this year, how they will fare for this year. It's been a relatively difficult year for the auction houses, I think, even though they don't really let on much. We're looking at lot number 8, the Smilodon. The Smilodon has a few interesting aspects to it, both in terms of its appearance and its limited series. It was, first of all, released in an exclusive run of 8 pieces in 2023 to celebrate the Year of the Tiger, which is 2023 in Chinese calendar. Inspired by the prehistoric saber-toothed tiger, Smilodon in Latin. The top lugs are shaped like the ears of the saber-tooth. The guilloche finish of the dial in 3 different patterns harkens to the animal's fur. Again, the hour and minutes are indicated through the 2 goggly eyes, but this time the mouth opens to different image of a prehistoric animal, which is supposed to have been eaten by the Smilodon. Apparently, the jaw drops in the morning and closes back up in the evening. The animals basically represent the 7 days of the week, stylized by Chaykin to look like petroglyphs, the prehistoric cave paintings. There's a human depiction as well, apparently among these 7, which includes a mammoth, a mastodon, a camelops, among other prehistoric animals. And the human is supposed to represent Sunday, but since it's a random assortment of 7 animals, of course, the owner can decide for themselves. A very rare edition because it's an 8-piece limited run, because it has this unique display of days through the mouth of this prehistoric predator, the Smilodon, the saber-tooth tiger. Because also its unique design, of course, with the upper lugs, all of which in bronze, here from the full frontal lug corresponding to the ears of the tiger. Unique guilloche dial that depicts the fur of the animal. The stainless steel matched with a stainless steel pin buckle and a stainless steel case back. This piece is also unique because it has Vaucher movements. My bad. The case back is actually in titanium. I apologize about my mistake. And so is the buckle, which is polished with the two pins or two tanks to hearken to the saber-tooth tiger that is depicted on the face, on the case. Here's the presentation box. The Smilodon in bronze and titanium, with a new movement based on Vaucher VMF 3002, modified as K08-2, one of only 8 pieces, number 2 of 8 pieces. The Konstantin Chaykin Smilodon as introduced during Dubai Watch Week in 2021. This is lot number 8, with an estimated value of 39,800 to 62,500. The starting bid was 34,100, and the upper ceiling of that pre-auction estimate is also the buy it now price, 62,500. This was lot 8, the Konstantin Chaykin Smilodon. We are halfway through the auction. Feel free to send in any requests or questions with super chats. If you have any other types of requests, please feel free to send them in as well. We're looking at a very special auction that is going to take place as a live event on August 29th in Geneva. Ineichen, Zürich, ex Konstantin Chaykin. I think this is the first auction to be dedicated to the Russian watchmaker's work. It includes some interesting, remarkable, and rare pieces from his Wrist Monster series that were started with the release of the Joker in 2017. It has, as you see here, one particular example, a number of hand-drawn sketches by the master's hand, by his own hand, by Konstantin Chaykin himself. And it has also a couple of very interesting other kinds of horological items we are about to catch up with momentarily. But right now you're looking at a sketch of Konstantin Chaykin Game of Thrones at lot 9. This is a drawing by Chaykin of an unrealized project by him on Game of Thrones. The sketch is from 2022. The minute indicator is shaped like a wheel, as you can see. And the hour indicator is at the traditional 12 o'clock, expressed with Roman numerals through 2 distinct wheels. The Roman numerals have a chain-like appearance in this design. A very fascinating drawing indeed, which has a shield like look, inspired by the Game of Thrones TV series. Apparently, he found the movement very difficult to implement in a wristwatch, but he used the idea in a larger piece, which is the Lucomorie clock, and that took 1,119 parts to actually implement. Again, this is a drawing of a wristwatch that remains a phantom, so to speak, from 2022. Chaykin Game of Thrones, which I think, at least in part, did not become a reality because of the complexity of the movement that Chaykin conceptualized for it. Lot number 9, a sketch by Chaykin's own hand with a pre-auction estimate of 3,450 to 5,700. There's already a bid, and that starting bid was 1,750. The buy it now option is fixed at $5,700 in advance of the live event on August 29th. Excuse me. I'll take a very short break and leave you with lot number 10, which is another sketch of Wristmon, which is a still unrealized model, but it might actually be on its way to become a new watch, become a new entry to the Wrist Monsters series. Please hit the like button. I will be right back. All right, we are back. You're looking at an as of yet unrealized watch by Konstantin Chaykin. This is a sketch in pencil and watercolors on watercolor paper portraying Quetzalcoatl, the Aztec fertility god. It's an interesting concept. After all, just last year, Chaykin released the Calavera wristmon, which was inspired by the Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos. So a version of the wristmon that has a depiction of Quetzalcoatl, might not be too far away. I wanted to show the calavera. Let's see. So this was the calavera, as you can see. And apparently, also last year, Chaykin sketched a design of the Aztec fertility god Quetzalcoatl in pencil and watercolors, as you can see, which is something that might be released quite soon. But this is just a sketch for now. Oh, wait, sorry. The sketch is actually dated February of this year. So even more recent. Lot number 10, a rendition of the Aztec fertility god Quetzalcoatl as a wristmon by the hand of Konstantin Chaykin himself. The pre-auction estimate is 3,450 to 5,700 in US dollars. The starting bid is 1,750 with a fixed price of 5,700. Once again, there's no buyer's premium, and that is the case whether it is the hammer price on August 29th in Geneva or the buy it now option, which can be exercised in advance of the auction. We're looking at the upcoming Geneva auction by Ineichen Zürich, which is dedicated to the work of Russian watchmaker Konstantin Chaykin. $15 lots, 14 of which are already revealed, and the very last one, lot 15, is going to be a new watch release, and they will sell the prototype as well as the original conceptual sketch by Chaykin. Lot number 11 is another sketch by Konstantin Chaykin, again from this year, called Mouse King, with graphite pencil and watercolors. This is an earlier piece, actually released in 2020 to celebrate the Year of the Rats in Chinese calendar. Here, Chaykin was inspired by Ernst Theodor Amadeus Hoffmann, E.T.A. Hoffmann's A Fairy Tale, The Nutcracker and the Mouse King. He has a very particular way of rendering the guilloche patterns that are used on the watch, both at the conceptual level and in these sketches that are made after the fact. A true artist. 3 different types of guilloche, which are rendered here in graphite pencil and, of course, watercolors as well. And he has even given in this depiction some of the texture of what was a titanium case for this particular model that was released in 2020. But this is a more recent sketch of the Mouse King by Konstantin Chaykin. Again, it's just the sketch in watercolors and pencils for this particular lot. The estimated value is a 3,450 to 5,700, with the ceiling of that pre-auction estimate also serving as a fixed price for the buy it now option. Lot number 12 is another sketch, again in a combination of graphite pencil and watercolors on a cardboard of Chaykin's Genius Temporis, a blue arrow. This was a piece with a single blue arrow hand watch, the first version of his famous one-hand model. The piece was introduced first in the 2014 edition of the Basel World. This is a very unique piece. Let me see if I can find a video that shows how the watch actually functions. Again, this is just a sketch of that. So here is the watch in work, the actual production version. So you basically press to see the hour, release to see the minutes. Very unique. But this initial sketch is much more austere in design, much more restrained, kind of like almost, you know, Art Deco aesthetic, very minimalist. Blue arrow, heat blued, fashioned out of stainless steel, with a sector for the hour track, Arabic numerals painted in blue, a sky blue taking center stage, both at the center of the dial and its periphery. And what is depicted is, again, seemingly a stainless steel case as well. Very, very interesting. This, as far as I know, was one of a kind piece in the Blue Arrow version as well. Let me see if I can find a picture of that. Yeah, here is the ultimate piece that emerged out of this work. 44 millimeters in diameter in a stainless steel case, 12 millimeters in thickness, a ruthenium plated dial, and a hand wound caliber, which has 45 hours of charge when it's fully wound by hand. So, sketch of the Genius Temporis Blue Arrow watch is offered here as lots 12. As with the other sketches, the pre-auction estimate is 3,450 to 5,700, with the higher number being also the buy it now price. The starting bid is set at 1,750 US dollars in advance of the auction, which is going to take place in the afternoon on August 29th in Geneva. Now, we have a couple of very interesting pieces as we approach lot number 15, which is one of a kind and will be presented on the day of the auction and auctioned off along with its original conceptual sketch. But we have two more pieces, two more clocks. Lot number 13 is the Konstantin Chaykin tourbillon 55 table clock. A very fascinating piece, beautifully designed in a stunning execution. Rectangular polished stainless steel clock with wooden inlays, a silver dial that has raised gilt Arabic numerals, a rectangular sector in the railroad's track style for the minutes. The tourbillon takes the center stage at 12 o'clock, also serving as the indicator for seconds. Since there's a blued second sand that sits on the pivot, and instead of 11 at 11 o'clock, there's the number 55, which is an interesting cipher for this watch. We will mention it in a second. This is a 1-minute tourbillon, of course. As I mentioned, it serves, the cage also serves as a subdial at 12 o'clock to indicate the seconds. Heat blued leaf styled hands for the hour and minutes. The watch, or rather the clock, was designed for enthusiasts of ham radio, or amateur radio, basically, which apparently Chaykin was really passionate about in his youth. At 11 o'clock sits number 55, which is a cipher in amateur radio circles, in ham radio circles, meaning a handshake. The dimensions of this desk clock are 232 by 165 by 129 millimeters. Beautiful vertically arranged tourbillon movements. Nickel plated brass, mineral glass on the front and back. And I believe it is wound by a key. Which, of course, is inserted right here at 6 o'clock. The clocks, of course, rarely appear at auctions or public sale otherwise. Very produced in very limited numbers by the manufacturer, usually as one-off pieces. This Tourbillon 55 is a very fascinating piece that is both quirky and horologically impressive, as it behooves a horological design by Chaykin. Very admirable piece. Ali Reza, $10. A member of the channel also. I really appreciate you. He says, putting this to rest, dear trolls, Lord and I are fine. Brothers fight. Things may be different, but I remain a paying customer of Lord's content and recommend it. FFS, get a life. Again, things may be different, but they're not on my side, just to put it out there. For me, really nothing changes except for some logistical issues. My sentiments towards Ali, or JJ for that matter, remain unchanged. JJ is always welcome here. Ali is always welcome here. Depending on, how much they want to participate and how they want to do that. I like them on the panel. I like them in the chat. I like them as part of JJ's Watch Hangout. For me, nothing changes, really. I never asked for anything, and I'm completely fine. And I'm honored by Ali's continued support as well. So this is lot number 13, which In addition to all the quirky, fun, and really amazing wrist monsters that are offered in this 15 lot auction, I think remains a very stunning and important piece, the Tourbillon 55 table clock by Chaykin. Perhaps my absolute favorite of this auction, lot number 13, already had the starting bid lodged in advance at 17,050 in US dollars, with an estimated value of 22,750 to 34,100, with the higher number also serving as the fixed price for the Buy It Now option. And in each case, whether we are talking about the Buy It Now price, which can be utilized in advance of the August 29th live event, or the hammer price at that event, we're not talking about a buyer's premium. Ineichen has basically eliminated buyer's premium both for their online auctions and, of course, for this event as well, which honors Chaykin's work. Beautiful piece, and my absolute favorite from this auction, the Chaykin Tourbillon 55 table clock with a vertically designed movement, a 1-minute tourbillon encased in a stainless steel enclosure with a wooden inlays. Inlays? I don't know. Let me see what. I think they're actually part of the case and not just inlays. I think that's serious wood there on the sides and as part of the foundation. So the last lot that is revealed today, even though we are going to pay some attention to lot 15, which is apparently a new release, which is only going to be unveiled on the day of the auction. We're looking at a Joker table. So this is a collaboration between Konstantin Chaykin and Costa Design. This is a handmade table clock. I mean, it is a table and a clock, unlike the desk clock that we were just looking at. Made out of stainless steel, leather, aluminum, and glass, 100% handmade, fully functioning Swiss-made mechanism with 7 days power reserve at full crank, fabricated by Art Edge Switzerland, approximately 82 kilograms in weight, 148 times 72 times 65 centimeters are its dimensions. It is apparently going to be produced as a one-of-a-kind piece for the winner, and it will take 4 to 5 months to produce. Very, very interesting. fascinating and very fun piece indeed. The Joker table watch, as you can see in this rendition, as a centerpiece of a horological enthusiast, weirdo, collector, whoever you call this imaginary person who might win. I would love to have a piece like this as a part of my living room, to be honest. It seems like a very interesting occasion and a great way to honor the watch that puts Chaykin on the map in a big way for the average collector, rather than leaving him out there as a niche maker of very complicated and interesting watches that were produced as one-offs. Once again, this is lot number 14, a collaboration between Konstantin Chaykin and Costa Design, an actually functioning table clock version of his Joker design, made out of stainless steel, leather, aluminum, and glass. 100% handmade, approximately 82 kilograms in weight. The dimensions are 148 by 72 by 65. The pre-auction estimate is 59,100 to 90,900. There are already 2 bids launched in advance. The starting bid was 40,900, and the fixed price, again, that high ceiling, 90,900. In either case, there's no buyer's premium involved, so the hammer price or the buy it now price, what you see is what you pay. The Joker table as lot 14, a fully functioning table version of the famous Chaykin wristmon, the first of which was released in 2017, the Joker. Very, very interesting. So now, last but not least for this auction, even though we may dabble and take a look at some other pieces as well. Hey, Frank and Honest, nice to see you, man. You're vicious. Frank and Honest, also a member of the channel, just like Alireza. Wow, a $91,000 coffee table. Insane. But hey, it's I don't know, man. It's really a fascinating piece. Again, not saying that it's the first thing that I would go for, but if money were no object, I would actually love to own both a first series Joker and this coffee table. I think it's really amazing. Yeah, absurd amount of money, of course, in either case at this point, but nevertheless. We're looking at lot 15, which is, of course, nothing for now, but this is going to be the prototype of a new release of a new wrist monster by Konstantin Chaykin. So a new character that will get unlocked in that universe of wristwatches that are inspired by villains, monsters, and deities through centuries from different cultures and imaginary universes to boot, with the unusual indication of the hour and minutes through the goggly eyes, and with the mouth serving alternatively as an indicator for the moon phase or for the day of the week. I look forward to figuring out what this particular one will be. All they are saying is this is going to be a prototype for Chaykin's new wristmon. It promises to be the most jovial and optimistic character in the entire collection. It will be officially revealed on the day of the auction, which is August 29th, 2023, at 1 p.m. Central European Time in Geneva. Model number 0 in the limited release. As you know, almost every new series is released practically instantly, with the wait list almost reaching 2,000 people, which is insane. I mean, that's probably 5 to 10 years of wait when it comes to these things. So this auction actually is an interesting opportunity to purchase a brand new wristmon of your choice when it comes to both this prototype and some of the other pieces that were offered. I don't know if you paid attention, but other than the sketches, which are quite interesting in their own regards, especially for the collector, a lot of these pieces were new, offered as new and unworn. I want to say, in fact, without exception, but I don't want to exaggerate. I think there were some that are previously worn, but again, most of the pieces that are offered in this auction are new and unworn. So they offer an interesting option to get a new wrist monster watch, one of Chaykin's designs. I think, except for a couple of exceptions, or save for a couple of exceptions, they are offered as new and unworn or in very good condition. The Tourbillon 55 table clock is my absolute favorite. If price were no object, the coffee table Joker clock is also a fascinating piece. Those are lots 13 and 14. And the auction also includes a number of lots which are original sketches, either of the initial conception or later iterations of Chaykin's wrist monsters by his hand. And the ultimate lot number 15, is going to be a new release, of which the prototype will be sold on August 29th. Frank and honest. To be honest, I've mostly viewed Chaykin's as novelty, if not gimmick, timepieces, but your presentation tonight has made me rethink, to a certain degree, my opinion. Another great show tonight, YB. Frank and honest, I appreciate you. Listen, I mean, you know, it's like my glasses today, right? It is a gimmick, but it's a useful gimmick. I am covering my messed up eye. I think those wristmons in 2017 were a great way for Chaykin to provide something accessible and maybe a little simplified for collectors. And it was like wildfire. it wasn't something he controlled initially. It was unexpected. It sold out almost immediately without knowing where things will go. I think they were offered at the time like maybe at $5,000-6,000. Not that it was necessarily cheap, but they weren't extremely expensive, and they were supposed to be a limited series, maybe one or two runs. Um, but things seem to have changed now. Now, if you, I can do that kind of show later, but Chaykin has a lot of interesting desk clocks with calendrical and astronomical complications, other horological creations that are absolutely mind blowing. Um, but since these watches are so much fun and so widely available, um, they drown out with their noise, perhaps the nuances of Chaykin's creations at large. And I think number 13 in this auction is a great way to balance out everything else that exists in this um, curation. Right, a beautiful desk clock with a 1-minute tourbillon, having the cage as the focal point at 12 o'clock. A beautiful piece of design, but also an ingeniously engineered caliber, all vertically laid out, aesthetically pleasing, horologically impressive. Um, all of it's on brand for Chaykin. Some of his stuff is so autre, so otherworldly that it's hard to even realize a similar concept as a wristwatch. So that's how it started. That's how this Wristmonts series started in 2017. Let me see if I can restrain myself, I suppose he said, so I can make something accessible that would be bought by the average collector. And it was a sudden recipe for success. So I'm glad I was able to give you another point of entry into his world. And I think I will take off unless there's a last minute request. These Thank you, frank and honest. I think I'll still go to a doctor next week. I don't think it's a big problem. But I want to be cautious. I want to be cautious. Um, so I sent in the link for the timed pieces that are listed right now at Ineichen. In addition to their themed curations, they're more focused um, auctions that center on a specific theme. They also have a random assortment of pieces that are consigned by them, which sometimes include very interesting and quite compelling watches. Again, they are listed in the same manner, uh, with always with a fixed price that serves as a buy it now option, even though it is a separate auction always. And once again, they are um, without buyer's premium, and Ineichen has a handful of lots coming in, cycling in and out every week of these watches. So take a look at those while I get another quick drink. If you guys find anything interesting, and if you want to super chat the lot number, I'll stay a little longer to discuss a couple more pieces, but otherwise, it's drawing to a close. I will, of course, say a few things about what's happening tomorrow before I close the show. So please stay tuned. I'll be with you shortly after I grab a cup of water. Please hit the like button in the meantime. Okay. Um, there's still a chance if you want to check out that particular link. So, again, we're powered by Steel Buffalo Motors. Um, they are a bike shop that services anything from e-bikes to Triumph to Japanese bikes to scooters, Vespas, Harley Davidson, and of course they specialize in Indian motorcycles. The Ben Maccabee, the founder, and Steel Buffalo Motors played a very important part in the revival of Indian motorcycles, which they specialize in. They sell those bikes as well. The location, the joint itself, is like a modern day shrine to Steve McQueen as well, in addition to also being home to so many museum grade memorabilia related to Steve McQueen and other fine Hollywood things. They also have beautiful cigars. So I'll be broadcasting from there, weather permitting. Apparently, Hurricane Hillary is approaching these shores. So we'll see how everything is tomorrow. As long as Ben opens tomorrow, I will be there and we will broadcast. And I hope there won't be any particular issues or technical difficulties tomorrow. But it's going to happen sooner or later. I'm going to send the link for the show tomorrow. It's going to start at 1 p.m. my time, which is actually 4 p.m. on the East Coast, 3 p.m. Central, if I'm not mistaken. So I look forward to seeing you in the chat. So please don't hesitate to click that link. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when I go live and when I post new content. Please, again, feel free to go to that link and hit the like button in advance. Give us a little bit of a boost, a little bit more of an exposure. I really appreciate you. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, both at that early show from Steel Buffalo Motors, and in either case also for the live stream late nights. If you haven't hit the like button, please click the upvote button before you take off. Share the content, spread the word far and wide, help me expand the community a little bit. In either case, I remain grateful for your support, to all the members, to everyone who wrote in the chat, asked questions, engaged in conversation, especially Steve B and Ali Reza, who is also a member of the channel, for their super chats and contributions. I will see you tomorrow. Until then, wear and enjoy your watches. I'll see you in the next one.